Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at the next promo character, who is going to be S-Class Ben Paul, otherwise known as just purely Ben. He is a character that was from the Telltale game series. He has had a character in RTS before. A lot of people remember him in the 5-star era as being one of the best rainbow defense leaders in the game, and he kind of came out of nowhere as a 5-star. In terms of like his power versus the other Telltale characters that were in the game. It was kind of strange, but it worked. But as a character visually in RTS as an S-Class character, he looks pretty insane. He didn't really make it to the point where this would have been a thing, I don't think. He was very short-lived in the Walking Dead universe. But here he is geared to the teeth, like he's been in the apocalypse for a while. He looks like more of an adult here rather than a teenager, like he was basically in the Telltale games. And you can see he's got all the armor. It kind of looks like a cross between, I mean, I guess it is like, it's American football, you know, NFL style armor. But it gives me the kind of vibes that I guess the Kingdom armor would give. I guess. Maybe just the breastplate, maybe not the shoulders so much. He has got a pretty intense looking weapon, which we will take a look at later. But visually, I don't mind the look of him. If we look at him on the left-hand side, his avatar, it is Ben how we would know him. Like I said, Telltale Ben, we all recognize the face. He is, of course, a S-Class character, and with 30 veteran rings, he has exactly the same stat balance as S-Class Jesus and S-Class Marge, with 2,580 attack, 4,780 defense, and 4,704 HP. He is a fast character, and he is considered a tank. If we go across to his adrenaline rush, it is called Burning Blood. It is a 76 AP cost rush. A line of enemies get 1,000 bleed and 1,000 burn for 3 turns. All teammates recover from all penalties and get 50% defense for 3 turns. So one of those defense team damage dealers, which can be very annoying because there's no way of really dealing with this in terms of like cheesing it. You're going to have cleanses. And like I've been saying recently, there aren't a lot of cleanses when it comes to bleed. It is on the rush, so it is going to be a bit slower than the likes of Lou Active. But it is doubling down on effects. And when you cleanse something like this, it would mean 2 cleanses would happen. So if you did have trauma, it would be 2 procs of trauma. 1,000 damage and 1,000 burn to 2 separate characters. That does obviously mean 2,000 damage a turn. That can be lacerated on the bleed, and a fire starter specialist can spread that burn to an adjacent character. All teammates recovering from all penalties is obviously great, but again, the same sort of situation. Trauma is a big deal right now. Every effect that is cleansed will take trauma damage because of that cleanse. So if you have got Jesus trauma on someone, they have got 3 effects, they will take 6,000 damage. Now the 50% defense boost is kind of in the situation where, like, if you're not coming up against a slow trauma infection team, you are going to be protecting your entire team against percentage damage. So I kind of like the balance between this rush. It has good offense here, it has a nice cleanse, and obviously the defense boost will just keep everybody alive longer. Okay, so now we come to Ben's rush turn, and as you can see, I have got Ivan Nova as a leader, and this is so that Ben gets enough AP to rush naturally because I have not upgraded his weapon at all yet. And as you can see, she's under the effect of a lot of things. I think it's 5 in total. There's burn, stun, hemorrhage, which is obviously a bleed, impair, and daze. So she's under the effect of 5 things. Now, when his cleanse comes in on his rush, as you're going to see, all of them are going to disappear. She's going to get her turn as well, where she's going to decide to do her active. Now, we have already seen a downside of where this character can come in on a defense team. It is going to be a little bit random who he selects when it comes to where he's going to do his rush. He has selected the highest damage dealer on my team, but she is the central character, so it's not prioritizing a line of characters over a single character. It's more prioritizing the most dangerous character on the attack team. You guys know how the AI does the focusing. It will basically dogpile your biggest damage dealer a lot of the time, and that's what it will do with the rushes as well. However, against the tanky lineup, if you are running infection and trauma on your attack team, it will most likely target one of the lines because the more dangerous characters are generally in the lines. At least I've found that. My Mateo gets targeted quite a lot, my Jesus as well. So yeah, there is definitely that. But that is obviously a downside. You did see the 50% defense as well come onto those characters. That just means that any follow-up damage would have done less damage effectively because they had higher defense, and it would go to all teammates as well. That's it. All teammates get 50% defense, and all teammates also would recover from all penalties. Now, I know what you're thinking. If Ivanova had trauma there from Jesus, she would have taken 10,000 damage and she would have been out of the game. And I 100% agree with you. That is definitely what would happen. However, if we do go across to the active skill of Ben, you can see that it is called Momentum Shift. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 3, and number of uses 5. All teammates recover from trauma. Up to 3 enemies get minus 80% attack and taunt for 2 turns. This character gets 60 crit for 3 turns and 50% AP. This is really, really powerful. If it was just the trauma and the AP, that would be powerful enough. But the fact that he will be taunting 3 enemies for 2 turns is nuts. It reminds me of a Cole who did 3 enemies and attack down taunt, but that was for 1 turn. This guy is going to be for 3. The added bonus here, just because of this, I think this guy could be used on an attack team against certain defenses. I used Cole on attack teams all the time when it was in like more bleed, burn, and now there's obviously infection teams that are going to be rolling around. He definitely could sit on that. And on turn 1, you're going to be getting 2 status effects on your enemies because of the attack down and because of the taunt. And that's going to work great with trauma. They can potentially resist the taunt, but no matter what, if you had him in a team where someone was going to remove effects and the trauma was there like Diego, then obviously that's just massively enhanced damage over that because it's just added debuffs that you're going to be removing. Okay, so we are on turn 1, and this time around I'm not going to be dazing Ben, so we can actually see the active, and he's going to control 3 characters. You're going to see the 80% attack down come in, and he takes no damage. He takes no damage at all. There was a little bit of bonus HP in here because there is an 8% bonus HP weapon in Ben's hands because I have swapped his main weapon out, which we'll be looking at in a moment. But you just see no damage is done, and they're controlled for 2 turns. So like obviously if I defend with these characters, he's going to get a command. That's a command turn 2 rush because of the damage he takes. Remember, every time someone gets a taunted attack off, he will guaranteed take 5 bonus AP per attack. So on turn 2, he'll be getting 15 flat AP on top of the AP he would receive from taking damage. So it's 5 for the taunt, 1 guaranteed for actually being hit, whether it removes a guardian shield or not, and then a little bit more based on the percentage of HP it takes away. So he's going to almost guaranteed be taking 20 APs worth of damage. On the active, it gives him 38, so that's 58. He's definitely going to be getting a turn 2 command rush, and he could potentially even get a turn 2 natural rush if you have the right AP weapons around. Remember, he could be having a 20% weapon in his hands as well. There is definitely the potential for that to happen with Ben. So obviously an insane amount of control potential on this active skill, and it can be used on both attack and defense. There's pretty much no real downside to this active skill either, except potentially that it might go off a little bit too early on a defense team. But you can control when it goes off by leveling it up a certain amount. If we go to the active skill leveling here, you can see as I level it up, it does upgrade to turn 2. When it gets to 7 out of 8, it's still turn 2, and then when it's 8 out of 8, it's turn 1. That's the only difference between 8 out of 8 and 7 out of 8 on the active skill. So if you wanted to make it a turn 2 active, and that way he would cleanse trauma, be full AP, and then could potentially be commanded that turn to fully cleanse his team with his rush, so he didn't proc trauma at all, then that is a good viable way of doing it. But if you wanted it to be a turn 1 control, it would have to be 8 out of 8. The only downside, of course, right now is there's no way of downgrading it to 7 out of 8 once you have maxed it out. And the initial cooldown is mainly important based on when you want it to happen, whether you want it to proc trauma or not. When he does it turn 1, you could potentially, as a Jesus on attack, know that they've got a Ben with a turn 1 active there, and then just do your active turn 2, and then any cleanses that do come in with Ben's rush after he's done his active would annihilate his own defense. Obviously, there is the potential that he's going to taunt you though because of the 3 characters getting taunted, so it is a little bit risky, but I think Ben's active is obviously extremely powerful, definitely the most powerful part of his kit thus far. And getting that off turn 1 isn't really going to be terrible. It just depends on how you want to make him work in your team. Now, you probably noticed from the examples before, he has got the specialist skill Guardian 2. This means on every single basic attack, he has the chance, if he hits a crit, to give 2 Guardian Shields to himself or his teammates. Remember, there was a change done to Guardian Shield quite a long time ago where it used to only prioritize teammates, then it would only give it to yourself if there was no other teammates alive or if there was no other teammates who needed a Guardian Shield. Now it just prioritizes the 2 characters with the lowest HP. And that can include Ben, but he is a tank, so he's most likely going to have quite high HP. He is going to get that crit boost off of his active, so you don't necessarily have to gear him for crit, and you could see this as more of a bonus. But obviously him being more of a defense team character, this is the first defensive specialist skill Guardian 2. We have had an offensive one, which is Michonne, and I think Guardian 2, once it starts rolling, it can be extremely frustrating. In his first 2 turns, Ben should do a basic attack, generally speaking, unless you have geared him out specifically with the 20% weapon to self, 8% weapons, first turn active to have a natural turn 2 rush, which is definitely possible, but most likely not really that beneficial. So I'll show you how the crits work on attack with Guardian Shield, and if you do use them on attack, you can basically say to yourself, I'm not going to use my active turn 1. You will not get the benefit of his crit bonus for turn 2, but at least you can cleanse the trauma which is going to come in against some, obviously, characters like Jesus here. If I do a basic attack and I do hit the crit, you can see there's going to be 2 characters that are going to get the Guardian Shield. Ben being one of them, because he has got one of the lowest HPs in the team. This is because right now he is completely unmodded, whereas the other characters are. This is just to show you that he can receive the Guardian Shield himself. It goes to the 2 characters with the lowest HP. This time around it's going to be Mateo, so this is just to prove to you that it can go to him. This was a change that was done ages ago, but you know, there haven't been too many Guardians, so some people don't know how they work. So then obviously we'll go round to turn 2. I'll just get off the rest. We're not really looking to actually properly attack. And now his active should come in, the enemy Jesus, as we're going to see. And now my characters, as you know, are all traumatized. I can easily just remove the trauma. We're going to do 3 characters get taunted, but because they had the trauma on themselves, they resisted, and you saw how much damage they took. That's where this character could be useful on an attack team and still provide something that's useful. You know, the Guardian Shields on top are really going to be nice. If you did make it so he had Impair Resist, he would be able to potentially full cleanse his team next turn, where there would be no trauma, and there would also be no risk of Jesus bringing his rush back. And there would also be no risk of Jesus doing his active again. So obviously you're just stacking effects, getting extra damage on top, and this is the usability on an attack team. One of the main things about Guardian 2, of course, is that it does deny AP to an attacking or defensive team. That means that if someone has a Guardian Shield on him and someone decides to attack that Guardian Shield, they will gain 0 AP. The defending character will gain 1 AP, because no matter what, when you're attacked, even if you don't take any damage, you will always get 1 AP, whether you do absolute defend, Guardian Shield gets broken, so on and so forth. So that is always worth keeping in mind. Now we'll go on to Ben's weapon, and we have that Klingon style weapon. It is pretty hefty, I'm not going to lie. Ben Paul's Sturdy Glaive, 30% HP, a medium bonus to AP when taking damage, obviously that's going to be the upgrade slot, but the last slot, when being attacked, a 60% chance to get 100% max HP and apply 500 bleed to all enemies for 3 turns. I don't know if you would have seen that in the test clips I ran before. I tried to swap his weapon out to keep this a bit more of a surprise. As much as this is an AP gain window, that is a lot of bleed. That is 1,500 bleed guaranteed, but it also stacks. From attacking him 5 times on average, because it's got a 60% chance, that'll be a 1,500 bleed to all of my teammates for 3 turns. And that is basically like an S-Class Lu active, but it's on the weapon. And do remember, he has a first turn taunt, and that will have the potential of proccing that 6 times over 2 turns. So this time around, I'm just going to attack with just Ben on a defense team, just so you can get a good idea of how it works. So we'll just do our basic attacks and see what happens. And as you can see, just from my basic attacks, We procced it 4 times, and everybody has got 2,000 bleed. Now the taunt attacks are going to come out. We procced it once, twice, 3 more times. Everybody's got 3,500 bleed on turn 1, basically. I've only taken 1 turn. Obviously, on turn 1 yourself, you don't really want to focus him because you can just get 2,000 bleed for no reason. But the first 3 taunted attacks did get 1,500 bleed for the turn 2. So that would come in on this turn right here. And they're going to take all that damage. We will have another attack come in. It's not going to proc it this time. We have got the survivability of May because of her weapon. But yeah, the potential is going to be actually pretty good. And you can see 32,000 extra damage. Ben did nothing, but the entire team is dead. Now, obviously, in majority of cases, you're not going to focus Ben. You're going to try and control him as quickly as possible. But that was crazy. And that's where extra usability comes in for him on an attack team. So I like the weapon actually quite a lot. I'm generally not a big fan of these third slots that are open windows, but this one is, as much as it's an open window for AP gain, you're still not going to really want to attack it the majority of the time because it's just 1,500 damage to every character over 3 turns if it only procs once. And you just saw, like, out of the first 5 attacks we did, it procced 4 times. And then it was nasty, guys. Nasty. But yeah, this is Ben Paul, guys. It's a Telltale character, of course, and I will say he's probably one of the most hated Telltale characters from season 1. But he does have a little soft spot, I think, in most people's hearts when it comes to RTS, and that's, like I said from the beginning of the video, he was a surprise hit as an RTS character in the 5-star era because of his build, you know, because you could have that rainbow defense lead that could rush really, really quickly. So yeah, I think he's going to be a lot of fun if you do get your hands on him. That weapon, the potential there is very good with that active, and I think I'm definitely going to be doing a pull for this character. Telltale characters, you know how I roll, guys. I'm always going to be doing at least a 10, but I'm actually thinking about it. I wanted to save for a 100, but we might drop a little bit more than a 10. We'll think about it, guys. We will, but it's definitely going to be a 10, probably coming this weekend sometime. If you do pull for this character, best of luck. Do tell me down in the comments what you think about S-Class Ben coming to the game as another fresh Telltale character in the S-Class era. That is going to be the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.